We're learning the first Sikha on Elul in Chelek Yutes on page 158. Today's shir is being learned Lila Nishmas Rabbi Yosef ben Yamin ben Rabbi Menashe Koltman. In eine von the Sikhs von Chag Pesach. In one of the Sikhs of the Frierdiker Rebbe on the time of Pesach. Is kvektushes meire v'chomi admor metayer dem ruchni de gematzev. So the Frierdiker Rebbe describes the spiritual condition that there was at geherrscht Shabbos Mevarchem Elul in Lubavitch. That there was in the city Lubavitch when it came to Shabbos Mevarchem Elul, what was the atmosphere like? The Ir Abire, Hauptstadt, this was the capital city, so to speak, from Kvekidushes Admire Chabad in Meshach von Asach Yaren, of the Chabad Rabbeim for many years. Wer hat gesagt, so the Frierdiker Rebbe there says as follows. Dem Shabbos Mevarchem Elul in Lubavitch. When it came Shabbos Mevarchem Elul in the city Lubavitch, Hagam es fleckt noch sein a klor zun scheinendigen Tag. It was still a day when there was a clear shine and radiance of the sun. In other words, it's still sort of at the end of the summer when the sun is still there. Hat sich schon der Ave gebitten. But nevertheless, there was a change in the air. Es hat sich schon angeheben feeling dem Elul Reyach. You began to feel something different, a smell in the air from Elul. Es hat schon geblasen a tshuva wind. You already could sense a wind, a tshuva wind that was blowing in the air. This is the description of the atmosphere of the Shabbos in Elul in Lubavitch, Mevarchem Elul in Lubavitch. Alle Reit und Wörter von Rabbi Seinu Nesienu, all words that the Rabbeim said, sind meduyik in alle Zeire Pratim, are precise in each detail. Is verstandig, so if so it's understood, as the vier Teirim, we sind done der Siche, benegei Shabbos Mevarchem Elul. So the same is regarding the Siche here, that you have the four different details in the description of the Chodesh Shevel. The Rebbe breaks it down to four different things. What are they? Aleph, der klarer Sonnenschein. The fact that it was still a clear shine of the sun. Beis, der Umbeit von dem Aver. The fact that the atmosphere, the air changed. Gimel, dem Fillen von dem Reach Elul. And then the fact that they felt some kind of a smell of this month of Elul. Und Daled, das Blasen von der Tshuva wind. The fact that there was a wind of Tshuva blowing. Zene nit stam malitzes. These are not just beautiful poetic expressions or anything in that sort. Nor the zenen firin yonim. These are four different ideas. Was drikken eis, dem pnimi is the genteichen from Shabbos Mevarchem Elul. They express what's really the deeper content of what the month of Elul has in it. Nachme, an additional point here. The Reit von Rabbi Seinu Nesienu zene meduyik, the words of the Rabbeim are not only precise, nit nur benegeya was sie haben gesagt, not only regarding what they actually said in every detail, nor eich benegeya wenn sie haben es gesagt, but also regarding the timing of when it was said. Jeder Inyan haben sie gesagt, in dem Zman, was es dazu zugepasst, und zu welcher hat Sheiches. Whatever they spoke about, it was in connection to that time period, and it had the relation to that time when it was said. Although, of course, the hashpah of this idea, which is said and connected to a specific time, continues, and you take this lesson and you can use it much later as well. So now over here regarding what the Frierdiker Rebbe described in the month of Elul. So Vibalt as Kvektushes Meir V'chomi Admor hat wegen Toyev und Shabbos Mevarchem Elul gerät in Chag Pesach. When did the Frierdiker Rebbe speak about the month of Elul? In a Siche that he said in Yontif Pesach. Es move on, as es da pnimis de Gescheiches und Verbund zwischen die zwei Zmanim. There has to be some deeper connection between these two time periods, the month of Elul and the Yontif of Pesach. So the question is, l'chayre is legamri nit verstandig. So seemingly this is totally not understood. The zwei Zmanim from Shabbos Mevarchem Elul and Pesach, these two time periods in the year, Elul and Pesach, zenen in zeir inyan v'teichen nit bleis andish. So looking at the deeper content of what they represent, not only are they different, nor ich hofgemene von zweiten. They're really opposites. Why? What is the deeper content of what the Aveda of Elul is, spiritually speaking, and what's the Aveda of Pesach time? The Rinyan from Pesach is Am Shachem ul Mailo Lamata. Pesach is a yontif where the main emphasis is on the revelation that comes from above here to below in this world. As it's hinted in the Pasuk, where it says in Shir HaShirim, Frier doidi li, my beloved comes down to me, und denach va'ani loy. And then a Yid responds to this and turns to the Eibishter. This is Yidua as the Geula from Yitzias Mitzrayim, so it's known regarding what happened at the redemption from Mitzrayim, is gekommen nit durch der Avoide von the Yidden. It didn't come about through the fact that Yidden served the Eibishter and they were deserving for this redemption. But am Adarabba, because on the contrary, Far Yitzias Mitzrayim, then is a gar gewen a matze von halalo over the Avoide Zara and halalo chulu. Before Yidden left Mitzrayim, they were in such a condition that they're compared to the Mitzrayim. They were over the Avoide Zara. So there's 2 points that the Rebbe is saying. And number one, that in the Geula of Mitzrayim, we're talking about a tremendous, great revelation that's not even reachable through a person's Aveda. So therefore, it's a revelation from above. And besides, the Yidden weren't in any place, on any level of Aveda, to reach anything, even a level that you usually could reach through Aveda, but the Yidden were then similar to the Mitzrayim. Nor b'derech hasarusa de leila. Then the revelation of the redemption came through an awakening from above. The Eibishter came and took us out of Mitzrayim. And then that also awakened by the Yidden from below to respond to this redemption. That's the Aveda of Chodesh Elul. Of Chag Pesach. Dakegen, on the other hand, this Chodesh Elul, this month of Aveda and Aneifen from Mamat to Lamayla. The main emphasis in the month of Elul is the Aveda where a person from below arouses himself and inspires himself from below. Frier, Anile Daidi, Sarusa de Lisata, und danach, the Sarusa de Leila, Vidaidi Li, which is Rosh Tevis Elul. As it's well known, Anile Daidi, Vidaidi Li, the first letters of this words here, that is, make up the month of Elul. So the Aveda of Elul begins with Ta'ani L'Daidi, a person inspiring himself from below and bringing about, and stimulating from above a response to his Aveda. If so, darf man verstehen, was für ein Ort hat zum Beweis sein in dem Zman von Pesach, dem Inyan von Shabbos Mevorchem Elul. The question is, why is the Frierdiker Rebbe in the middle of Yontif Pesach speaking about the description of Shabbos Mevorchem Chodesh Elul and Lubavitch? This is it's a beautiful thing, but it's not the time for this in the Yontif of Pesach. So to answer this, the explanation is as follows. It says Yedua, it's known, K'maimer Azal, based on what it says in the Medrash, Eifum Pasik, Mi Hiktimani Va'ashalem. There's a Pasik that says, that Hashem says, who could come forward and serve me, and I would be obligated to pay for this service. So what do we understand from this Pasik? As a fille das was a Yid gereicht, durch sein Aveda, even what a Yid does and serves Hashem and accomplishes and reaches, whatever level he can reach through his Aveda, is das euch durch dem koyach was megitem deruf mamayla. This itself is not really something that a person can do on his own. It's all with a koyach that Hashem gives him from above, that there should be that value to his Aveda. In the Medrash there, it actually describes this regarding all the mitzvahs that we fulfill. A person is going to do a mitzvah and say that because of this, he could demand that Hashem should pay him and reward him for the mitzvah. So for example, you put up a mezuzah in your home. Who gave you the house that you could put up a mezuzah? You have tefillin, and you're using the hide of an animal to make tefillin out of it. Who gave you this material to make the tefillin? And so on and on. The Medrash gives different examples of mitzvahs that a person could never say that this is my accomplishment, that Hashem deserves, that Hashem should pay me because I deserve this payment. And it's the same thing that Rabbi is saying regarding the Aveda in a spiritual sense, that when a person serves and through his Aveda he gets closer and he creates a certain connection. So whatever response that there comes from above in the connection of Hashem to us through our Aveda, it's not because our Aveda, with our own power, we have that ability to reach and stimulate a certain response from Hashem. It's all a gift that Hashem empowers us to be able to do this. And this, it may have skipped over here a little bit. Noch der Hasarusa de Le'ela it's only through the fact that first there is an inspiration that comes from above, where Hashem empowers a Yid. After there is that initial Hasarusa de Le'ela, then that gives the ability that a Yid should be able to do anything, to connect to Hashem on whatever level it may be. But without that initial Hasarusa de Le'ela, whatever a Yid will try to do on his own to connect to Hashem, he will go nowhere with this. A Yid cannot break out of his limitations in any way to connect to Hashem on any level without first having that inspiration from above. Only the Alter Rebbe is mevayer. The Alter Rebbe explains this in connection to the month of Elul. As Elul is the Zman, when Severn is Gala, the Yud Gil Midas Arachmim. Elul is a time, it's a month when there's a revelation of the 13 attributes of mercy. Und git a mashal of them von a melech welch gefindt sich basade. The analogy of the Alter Rebbe famously is of a king that goes out to the people and meets them and greets them in the field. Was damalt meg jeder was will, and then anyone is allowed to come and approach the king. A reis gein dort can go out there, mekabel panim zayin the melech v'chulu, and to go and greet the king. That's the famous mashal of the Alter Rebbe regarding the month of Elul. So now you may think, how is this appropriate to the month of Elul if we say that the main point of the Avodah of Elul is the Ani, that a person on his own from below should inspire himself and connect to Hashem. But here the Alter Rebbe is giving a mashal that the king, Hashem, is coming down into the field and making himself available for anybody to come and approach him. So what this means is, although in the month of Elul, the main focus of a person's Avodah should be from below, inspiring himself and connecting to Hashem with his own abilities. And that it comes from the inspiration from below. Von deswegen fordert sich auf dem Gufe die Isgalos von Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim. For this itself to be possible, you have to have an initial inspiration from above, the revelation of Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim, und an Esinis Reshus v'Koyach Momayla, enabling and empowering a person, sort of giving him the permission to even do anything to come and connect to Hashem. Und nachdem kommt die Avodah von Anile Daidi. And then, after you have this revelation of the king, where the king sort of gives you the go-ahead, and he allows you, not that now this will characterize your entire Avodah, that you're going to ride on this inspiration from above. The king is coming down, as the Rebbe said before, meg, that now you're sort of allowed, that now he gives you that ability that you're able to come and greet the king and inspire yourself. And then comes only afterwards, now a person can come and do his Avodah from below and connect to Hashem the way it's required in the month of Elul with the inspiration that a person works with himself. Let's move on, so we understand from this, as the Asarusa de Le'ela was vet nimshach, noch und durch der Avodah bis Asarusa de Le'sato. So now, after a person takes matters into his hand and inspires himself and serves Hashem and reaches levels, and therefore now he draws down yet a deeper connection. He inspires and stimulates an even deeper revelation from above through his Avodah. Is asach hecher. So this revelation that follows after his Avodah and through his Avodah is much deeper and greater. Then the inspiration that came from above initially in order to empower a person to even get started. Why is this? The initial inspiration that comes from above is Hashem's kindness, which a person does not pay for or deserve in any way. This is just the initial opening that Hashem gives us from His generosity, with His kindness. So this is a revelation that's coming from a place which is only external. This is just the beginning of the process. This is not the ultimate purpose here. This is a level of revelation which will then stimulate and get the ball rolling and get a person to take actions and matters into his own hand, and that's where the main purpose of what Hashem really desires. But this is just the beginning, which is only chitzonius, only external. But then, when there's a revelation that comes from above to create a connection based on that inspiration that a person had from below, so since this is what Hashem truly desires, that was the real purpose. Hashem desires the work that a person does from below. Is this So here, this revelation that comes as a response to what a person is doing, this is much deeper. You're drawing from the deeper level of Hashem's expression, from Hashem's light, because that's what Hashem truly desires. But at the same time, we understand, as das was die Esarusa de Lesata hatem koyach zum eure sein, die Esarusa de Leila. But also this, that a person's Avodah could draw and reach from a deeper place and connect to Hashem on this level of Pnimius. Nehmt sich das von der friedige Esarusa de Leila. It all begins with that initial chesed chinam, that initial inspiration that has to come from above, from Hashem's initiative, that He makes that opening for us to come and be able to connect to Him. That's where everything begins. So although we have explained that this power that Hashem gives us for this Avodah of the month of Elul, of Anila Daidi, is the Izgalus from the Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim in Chodesh Elul. It's because there's a special revelation of the Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim in this month of Elul. So that this is the time when you have both. You have both the revelation from above to allow and empower the person, and then the person has to take that and do his Avodah. Von deswegen, however, nevertheless, wie bald as jeder Inyan hat sein bestimmten Onoid und Ikes Mann. Since every single thing in Torah and in Avodah as well has its specific designated time and the main primary time in the calendar of the year of when that's the focus. Und der Zman von Amshachas Asarusa de La'ela Bechlal is Bepesach. And as mentioned before, generally speaking, the time period when there's revelation from above, when Hashem is initiating, He takes us out of Mitzrayim, He redeems us, whether we're deserving or not. Generally speaking, the time for revelation from above is in Pesach time. Mashenken Elul, which is not the case with Elul, was mitzad atzmai, is this Zman Avodah Mumata Lamayla Kanal. The main focus of this time period in the year is the person below, picking up the pieces and doing his own Avodah. The same is also true regarding this, that we say that in the month of Elul there is an inspiration from above, like a king that comes out into a field. As the Sheidish von der Amshache is Bepesach. Even this inspiration from above that there is in the month of Elul, the beginning and the source of where it all starts from is really Pesach. The says, which means as follows: as Pesach is the Zman von Nesarusa de La'ela and Anayfim Klali. Pesach is the time when there's an inspiration from above in a more general sense for what's relevant and what's needed for the entire year. Und davon kommen danach die Pratis, die Gamshachis, bei jedem Inyan in seinem bestimmten Zman. And then from there, it's divided specifically into the different days and time periods for the rest of the year of whatever inspiration is needed from above, all taking from that one and general opening that begins Pesach time. And this includes also the opening and the revelation from above that happens in the month of Elul. The Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim, that it's all rooted and it's all there really included in the general inspiration that started in the time of Pesach. And the Fars, and now we can understand why is the Siche, wegen Shabbos Mevarchem Elul, the Siche, the Friedrich Rebbe spoke about the inspiration that there is in the month of Elul, was B'Shabbos Mevarchem, Veren Nimshach, Ba'ifim Klali, alle Inyanim von der ganzen Chodesh. The idea of a Shabbos Mevarchem is that the idea of a Shabbos Mevarchem is that you're benching this month, and therefore this is a time when you're drawing down a new Hamshacha for the entire month. So this is bringing down including bringing down the revelation of Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim for this month. The time when the Rebbe, Friedrich Rebbe speaks about this is in the month of Pesach, because that's really the ultimate source of this inspiration of Yud Gimel Midas Harachmim that brings about this initiation for this new Avodah of the month of Elul. Al Pizeh zene verstandig. Now we could also understand the vier inyanim in dem Toyar from Shabbos Mevarchem Elul in the Sicha Anal. What is the deeper meaning of the four different details in the description of the month of Elul? Welche zene bechlal is eingeteilt in zwei Sugim. We could generally divide the descriptions of the Friedrich Rebbe into two categories. One is the Lichtigkeit und Behirus von Ziv HaShemesh. One is the light, the radiance of the sun. In Ashtenfall, that's the first part of what the Friedrich Rebbe speaks about. When he starts saying, Hagam es fleck noch sein a klar sonnenscheinendigen Tage. Yes, it was still a day where the sun was shining very strong, meaning it was like sort of still continuing from the summer and the sun is still there very much. But then there's the other part of what the Friedrich Rebbe speaks about, the Enderung von the Maver, the fact that there was a change in the atmosphere, a change in the weather, or a change spiritually speaking. Das viele dem Reach von Elul. You sense the smell of the month. Und das Blasen von der Tshuva-Wind in zweiten Fall. And then the fact that there's a wind of Elul that blows, or the wind of Tshuva rather, that is blowing at this time, that's the second point that the Friedrich Rebbe speaks about. So what are these 2 points that the Friedrich Rebbe is saying here? When he speaks about the shine of the sun, he's speaking about the revelation that comes from above. Deeper, the Friedrich Rebbe is referring to the true shine that comes from the Eibishter, which is compared to the light of the sun, Shemesh Havaya, Vazivet Nimshach and Chodesh Elul, which is revealed also in the month of Elul, via Prat von der Amshacha Klolis and Chodesh Nisan Kanal, as one of the details in the year that's coming from the general opening from above that began in Chodesh Nisan, as we explained before. On the andere drei inyanim, the other three details that the Friedrich Rebbe speaks about, Drikenois, the Eirus from the Nivraim Lamata, speaks about the inspiration of the people below, was wird erweckt durch der Amshacha v'ha'ara from Shemesh Havaya, which gets awakened and inspired through this revelation that comes from above, through Shemesh Havaya in the month of Elul. So what are the details that the Friedrich Rebbe speaks about? B'shayches to des Eirus from the Nivraim. So regarding the inspiration that there is from below, was kommt von der Amshacha Malmaila, which is caused by the revelation from above, sagt Kvakdushes Meire v'chami admur zwei inyanim. The Friedrich Rebbe says two details. The third detail that Rebbe will focus on in the next ice. Aleph, the first point he says is, es hat sich schon angeheben, feeling dem Elul Reach. There's a smell from the month of Elul. Beis, es hat schon geblasen a tshuva wind, that there's a wind from tshuva that's blowing in the air. So we see here there's a concept of smell and a concept of wind. The shaykhis von Reach und Ruach zu Elul und tshuva. What's the connection of the smell and the wind to this time of the year, Elul and tshuva? So the point is as follows: Ikkerat tshuvahu, the main idea of tshuva is, as the pasuk says, v'haruach toshav ala'alakim asher nisana, that the spirit, the neshama of a yid should return to the Eibishter from where it was granted, from its source. Der ikke zach von tshuva is zu derheiben sich zu beginnas ruach. The main idea of tshuva is a person to elevate himself to the level of ruach, to the spiritual level of his neshama. Was da over here when it says this level of ruach, is das adarge lemaila von oir. This is a level that's even higher than the expression of light. Ruach, the wind, or the spirit of the neshama, is even higher than this. So the point is that a person in the month of Elul, which is primarily the Avodah of Teshuvah, it's about returning and elevating and connecting yourself to a deep level of your neshama. That's how you return to Hashem, to the source of where your neshama originates from. Und das ist Kedushes Merivachami Admur Merames mit dem Wort Tshuva Wind. That's the hint here when he says that there's the wind of Tshuva. Warum der Ikke von Tshuva Elul is in the Bchine von Ruach Wind. Ruach, wind, which could be translated as the wind or the spirit, which is that very high level that a person connects to in the Aveda of Tshuva. It's higher than the level of Oir, and that's the Aveda of Tshuva, connecting to the essence of your neshama. Und damit is move on the shaykhis von Reach Elul. So with this we can understand the connection of the idea of a smell, a special smell that there is in the month of Elul. The Rikar Aveda von Anila Daidi in Elul is Aveda Tshuva. Since, as we said, the main Aveda of Anila Daidi is through Tshuva. Was durch dem is men zeiche zu Ruche shel Mashiach. Through Tshuva, one will be zeiche to reveal the spirit of Mashiach. Was sein Gilu besteht in Beginnes Reach. One of the unique things about Mashiach is the fact that he has a unique sense of smell. Wie es steht in Pasuk v'harichai beyiras havaya v'goymer, that there's a sense of smell that he has that's expressed with his special level of Yiras Hashem. Man proved them ois dafke mit mereach v'dan. So much so that when you want to test to see if this person is the real one, so how is it done? By seeing if he has the ability to use his sense of smell to judge people properly. Wie Chazal sagen, as it's described in the Gemara. So this is the connection of the level of Ruach and Reach to Tshuva and Elul. But there was a third detail that the Friedrich Rebbe spoke about, the fact that there was a change in the Avir, a change in the air. Als Akdame, so die zwei Inyanim, Ruach von Tshuva, und Beginnes Reach von Elul durch Tshuva, speaking about the wind of Tshuva and the smell of Tshuva, or of Elul, sagt, Vakdishes Mervichami Admur in the Siche, the Friedrich Rebbe says, es hat sich schon der Avir gebitten, that this is a time when the atmosphere, the air changed. Undaitendig damit. And with this, he's indicating the following. What's the significance of Avir, of air? In the Tzarchei HaChaim von Mentions and Nefaran, Kama Sugim. In the different necessities a person has in life, there are different categories. Ahois zu weinen, housing, shelter to live in, Kleidung, clothing to wear, Essen, trinken, to eat and drink, und Luft zu atmen. And then the air that you breathe, Avir, that's the Avir. Was eine is eins is nötige von anderen. One is more necessary than the other. Kleider is eine nötige wie a Haus. Clothing are more of a necessity than shelter. Noch nötiger is Speis. Even more important and more of a necessity is food. Noch mehr wichtig is trinken, and even more important is to drink. Und wichtiger von sie alle is Luft zu atmen. And the biggest necessity is to have oxygen, the basic air to breathe. But das ist eine ständige Notwendigkeit. This is something that a person is constantly in need of and constantly dependent on. und Aver zu atmen können nicht aushalten afila meshach von a kurzen Zman. Without having the oxygen to breathe, a person can't survive even for a short period of time, which is not the case with the other necessities of a person. Und wie bald, as a Mensch nötigt sich a sehr starken Aver. So because a person is so much in need of air, of oxygen, und wie gewöhnlich, atmet nacheinander mit Aver, and a person constantly is breathing this oxygen, is doch muvan, as der Badeit und Teyelis von Aver is a Sach, was jeder eine fühlt es damit. So therefore, the benefit of the oxygen that a person is constantly relying on and using is something that a person feels constantly this benefit. Und das ist die Kavanne von dem, was wird gesagt in dem Siche wegen Aver. And this is the idea here that the Friediger Rebbe speaks about, that in the month of Elul, there's a change in the air. He's focusing on the idea of air, of this basic oxygen that a person needs, also spiritually speaking. Wie bald der Reach von Elul und Ruach HaTshuva fühlen sich schein. In dem gebittenem Aver von Elul, what the Friediger Rebbe is saying is this special smell of Elul. And the Ruach, the spirit or the wind of Elul, is something that you sense when and where in this special change of ear that there is in this month of Elul. What he's saying by this is, Heistes as is an dan and an oifen von Aver. What he wants to say to you is, you should know that all of this special inspiration and change and Aveda that there is in this month of Elul should be looked at and be treated like just like ear. Which is what? Was then a nit verbunden mit Tirche. Ear is something which is basic and constant, and you know the benefit of it all the time, and you have the benefit of it all the time, and you don't have to work hard for it. It's always available to you. This is relatable and necessary for every person. No one should think, the month of Elul is for those special people. Comes to Elul, they tune in. But for the ordinary person, Elul has nothing to say for me. Therefore, the Friediger Rebbe prefaced and said, it's the oxygen in the air. The atmosphere is changed. This is something that is, everybody is in need of this, and everybody can access it like air. And this is something which gives life to everybody. Every person's neshama, b'chol neshima, and every breath. As Chazal tell us on the pasuk, that every single neshama praises Hashem. So Chazal tell us it means with every single breath we praise Hashem for every breath. And it's told too also spiritually that the Aved of Chodesh Elul is like the air that we breathe, which is something which is so easily accessible and attainable for everybody to connect to.